guys. My name is Ashley. I am a second grade teacher, and I joined a Facebook group that is just for second grade teachers. And on that Facebook group, every teacher, it came up multiple times where they were sharing how much this book has meant to their classroom and how wonderful it was. So I knew that I had to buy the book just to see for myself. As soon as it arrived, I just absolutely loved it, and I thought that as authors that you guys took a lot of care. You included a poster, you included a sweet thank you card, you personalized the story for me by writing a little author's note, as well as giving my students some stickers, and I gave them to the kids after reading the story, and they placed them on their name tags to always remember to choose kind words and to make good choices. As soon as I got the book, I had to read it for myself to just kind of see what all the buzz was about. As soon as I read it, I just had to kind of read some other different endings to see what would happen if a good choice was made, what would happen if a bad choice was made. As soon as I brought it into my classroom and shared it with my students, they loved it just as much as I did. They asked to read it over and over again multiple times, and I'm so glad that this book was written for them and I was able to share it with them. We still haven't reached all 9 endings, and still to this day, and it's been a couple of months, the kids still beg to read it over and over. It's probably their hands-down absolute favorite read aloud for them to hear. When I asked the students what they really liked about it, they said, well, Mrs. Lee, I think it's funny. And they really loved how the illustrations matched the words, and it kind of added to the story and gave it more depth to the story. And for example, they really loved how you said that Danny was trying to, fly, and he was working on it, and they loved the illustration of how he was jumping off of the couch or jumping off of the swings. Another thing that they really enjoyed was, I haven't read a book like this with my students where they get to choose what happens in the story. So they loved the chance to choose kind of their own adventure and to figure out, to make those choices about kind of being kind of like an author, but also being a decision maker and making those choices to see how the story will play out. They also really enjoyed how Danny got the skateboard in one of the scenarios, because they really could connect with it, and they said, well, sometimes, I've wanted a video game, but my mom and dad have told me I can't get it yet. I had to earn it. I had to make the allowance money. So it was really nice for them to see that connection of, if you earn and you work really hard towards something, that you can get it, and you could do it all by yourself as long as you try and you work really hard and get there. As a teacher myself, I love the book for the same reasons, but I also loved it even more for some different reasons. So one of the things that I really liked about it was it allowed children to see, well, what happens if you make a good choice? Okay, well, something good's going to happen from it. And then what happens if we make a bad choice? Well, you're going to get a consequence. And the good thing also is to figure out, okay, well, did that ruin the whole day? If we make a bad choice, is that going to set us up for a terrible day? And no, it's not. So it was nice for them to see, well, if we make one bad choice, it's not going to make or break our whole day. It might give us a consequence, but then, we can still make other choices throughout the day to make it an even better day and to kind of pick ourselves back up from it. Another thing that I liked from it was that it was super relatable to the kids. So it gave them scenarios where maybe they've experienced that as a sibling, as an older or younger sibling, or maybe it was a scenario where they've seen something like that happen before, and they were able to, connect with it. Because that's something super important for a book, is you want to pick something that the kids can connect with, something that they can relate to. So this was totally something relatable for the kids. I also loved how it gave kids choices to kind of choose, make good choices, and to allow them to see those things. I also really liked how it was a really, really big theme of kindness. So something that's super important for kids is to understand what it means to be kind, how to be kind to others, and how it feels to receive that kindness. So I thought that was a huge thing that really, really helped my students understand kindness and to kind of share that kindness with others. This book really helped them gain critical thinking skills and thinking, okay, well, I have a scenario and I have two choices that I can make. Which one am I going to choose if I'm faced with a similar scenario in my everyday life? And thinking about, okay, what can I do? I can do this choice, I can do this choice, and thinking about it before actually making that action. So understanding, you might have a consequence from it if we choose to think, to do our first instinct right away, what's going to happen. So allowing them that process to think about what might happen if we choose something. Similar to how I heard about this book, I knew since my students loved it and I loved it just as much, maybe if not more, I decided to share this book with my colleagues, and they have raved about it and said the same things that I have said. And their students loved it. They couldn't wait to read it again. They wanted to hear other different stories and how they play out. And so I love and love, love, love this story. And I think that it is a staple for both classroom teachers and parents alike, where you can teach those kids those scenarios, whether it's in a school setting or in an at-home setting. They still need to understand those important lessons of making good choices and what could happen from making good choices. As a teacher, I would love to see a sequel about this story, about what should Danny do, but maybe this time in a different setting, especially with people like me as teachers. I think it would be an awesome idea for you guys to create a story in a classroom setting or in a school setting. Maybe it's the lunchroom, the playground, and making those choices about what he can do and how you can allow the kids to make that choice and for them to see what might happen in that scenario. If you did something like this, I would totally, absolutely, hands down buy it. I would have no problem buying it, and I know my students would love it just as much. Thank you so much for writing such a wonderful book and for sharing it with so many children around the world. Thank you so much.